All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Let's get into that conversation of illegal levies in schools. My guests are with me from my farthest right there, Boaz Waruku, Strategy Advisor, Elimu Bora Working Group. Thank you for making time. Morino Kal is a Director, Smile Natoto Initiative, and also a parent. Thank you for making time. And Silas David Obuhatsa is the National Chairman, Parents Association. Thank you very much for making time. And Waruku, I'll start with you. How widespread is this illegal levies in schools? Because we saw a report from Elimu Bora indicating that it's quite rampant.
It's countrywide.
Yeah.
And first, thanks for inviting us to be here. And we appreciate our viewers also listening. But Trevor, the reason why we did this survey is because of what we started observing, that there seems to be a number of children being pushed out of the system. And they're being pushed out at even very tender age. With the CBC coming in, every time that there's a transition, somehow we are losing these young ones. We are losing the children. And so we started by wondering what could be the contributing factors to this. And we focused on, can we look at the financial issues? And so for us, we cast our net because we did a survey on 370 schools countrywide. So the situation is almost the same everywhere. But some schools are actually making the problem to be so dire that you start wondering whether children within the catchment area would be able to afford. For instance, when you ask a parent to come with 15,000 to 25,000 on admission, where do you expect that parent to get the money? Many of the parents there, the Mama Mboga parents, Baba Ugali, let me also call them like that. Many who are really struggling just to place Ugali on the table. But you're asking them to pay so much. But even before you reach there, I don't know whether our people, the public, should be made aware that within the framework that Kenyans themselves gave to govern themselves, that is the constitution of this country, they decreed and declared that education is a fundamental right, Article 43. That is Clause 1, F. Yeah. Article 53, Clause 1B, the right of the child to to free and compulsory basic education that's articulated, and the other legislations that have been made, the Children's Act 2022, because that was Children's Act 2001, revised 2022. You go to the Basic Education Act. Yeah. They are so specific, they don't leave any doubt as to what should be done. In fact, they place somebody in charge. They articulate that, that is Section 28 of the Basic Education Act, that the Cabinet Secretary has a responsibility to enforce the law and ensure that every child is in school and learning. That if there's to be any variation of that, if any levy or any payments is to be made, then that is a very small window that can happen, that can be done. That window is provided within the Section 29, part 2D. Yeah. It provides that where a school has actually sat and realized that there's certain items, certain things which they seriously require. I'll give an example of, like the floods that happened. And then you realize that there's a school now that really requires an emergency, an urgent intervention. A school can sit and then parents themselves agree that we want to intervene in such an area. When they do so, they must pass a resolution. It must be passed to the County Education Board, and it must go straight to the Cabinet Secretary. The Cabinet Secretary must consider how it is reasonable, whether it is reasonable. So that is not arbitrary. But if that doesn't happen, then it creates, unfortunately, our survey has indicated that that small window has now been opened into a big door. In fact, it has become a gate. I think that's what you were saying. It is now a floodgate that almost anything and everything goes. Why am I saying so? Because even the areas which were protected, like no admission fee shall be charged. That is expressed in the law. They've sneaked that in.
Okay. I'll come back to you to continue explaining this. But let me bring in Okal here. As a parent, are you seeing any justification for these extra levies? And have you been explained to when you go to school that these are the extra levies for this particular purpose?
Trevor, thank you first of all for bringing me in and representing the parents. Being a Monday, you're doing your Monday reports, I would want to first of all tell the government, give them a report that parents are not happy. Parents are really yoked by the injustices that we are feeling that the government is doing against us. Because we as parents, we get to a point where we think and take actions concerning our children, because it is our responsibility as parents to see to it that our children are having their education as usual. But the government has failed us. You know, we expect the government to be giving out money that is in form of capitation. And when the government has failed to do so, or when they do and they lag a lot, like even right now, the capitation that was supposed to be done last term has not been done. And this leaves us in a position where we are asking ourselves, my child is my burden. What is the way forward for me? So in this case, as the schools are also struggling, then you're left with no option. The child is yours. What are you supposed to do? That is now when we get into agreements with the teachers, because these monies, they don't just collect them from nowhere. Mr. Ruku here has explained how it's supposed to be done. And when the school has not been receiving the money, I need my child to go to school. Education does not wait, Mr. Trevor. What am I supposed to do as a parent? So the government has failed me. I have a child to take to school. You have not given money. What option do I have? I pay tax as a parent. I am a mamboga, that one that was promised, that when we get to power, we are going to take care of these issues. Then the welfare of my child is put at risk. What other option do I have? So it means that after paying the government taxes, and they're not doing me what I'm supposed to receive, they're not giving me what I'm supposed to receive, the services are not there. Then again, I have to go to my pocket so that my child can be taken care of. Ask yourself, why is it that you have never seen parents outside here coming to do the demonstrations that our children are not in school? It's because we have been forced now to take care of them in ways that are not supposed to be. The government has failed us. That is the truth. And I'm telling the government that as parents, we are not happy. We are watching. Remember, there was a time that the president said that wajinga waliisha Kenya. It is true. We are not stupid parents. Trevor, a majority of parents in this Kenya, the largest working force in Kenya, are teachers. So you can't tell me that these teachers are stupid. And these very teachers are the parents. So we are hurting. We are not happy. We need a change into these things. Policies have been put. These policies are going through a very poor oversight. So what options do we have? Remember, the child is mine. So I carry the burden, but with a very heavy heart.
We'll discuss that in just a bit, because there's an argument that, as much as the child is yours, then the responsibility comes back to you. But let's hear what Mr. Obuhatsa has to say, because you're the national chair of the Parents Association. What have you done to somehow intervene on this? It's not entirely your responsibility, but because you represent all the parents, is there any intervention measure that you've explored that seems to be effective?
Trevor, thank you very much. And my colleagues, Boaz, and my parents, these are parents, and they are talking.
True.
And I represent them in the government. Now, Trevor, the issue here is what you hear them saying, that what is the cause of this calamity? Where is it coming from? Before a principal collects money from parents, there should be a reason why he's doing or she's doing that. Because they are called illegal levies. And the reason being, the way the monies are collected from parents, the procedure is not to be the way it's being done. When I'm sitting here, Trevor, this is a circular from the PS that I'm carrying, and I have to show you. It is here, and you can see this circular. This is the circular which was released after I spoke to the former PS, Belio Sang, about issues of extra levies being levied on parents illegally by school managers. And the PS released a circular on the 8th of February 2023, because I took over the office in 2022, August. And the circular clearly states here in Regulation 44 of the Basic Education Act 2013 that no institution is allowed to levy any extra payments on parents other than what has been levied in the CS circular, which is the school fees structure given to the public. So besides that, any other form of payments that are being asked from parents could be termed illegal, first, if the parents themselves are not involved. We have instructed that where levies have been charged on parents, the school management boards, the PTS, must sit and come up with a very good answer that during the AGM, they have to give the parents, tell them, we need to buy a glass of water, which is 5,000 shillings. As parents, we are 200 parents here. If each parent gave just 10 shillings, we can afford this money. And then the parents vote and agree. Parents must agree that we can do that. If the parents have not agreed, if this matter has not come to the AGM, and here it is now, parents are getting separate fee structures to pay. That is where this issue of illegal levies are coming in. The second point, you cannot levy parents to pay because capitation funds have delayed. What happens when these capitation funds are now released to the schools? Do the principals refund back the money to the parents? Because when wamekopa pesa wazazi, they have borrowed money from the parents. In other words, you can just say it like that.
They should pay with interest.
Yeah. So they should pay them with interest. They pay. It has happened for several years. Do you know how much money the schools owe parents in terms of refunding? We should be asking the government to have the principals that collect money from parents illegally refund the money with interest. We should be seeing heads rolling with the TSC taking action. Because in this circular here, it says clearly, and let me read, sub-county directors of education have been instructed to visit all their schools in their jurisdictions to establish whether students are being sent away due to unauthorized levies, and afterwards report such cases for administrative action and decided by 10th of February 2023.
Yeah.
This is a policy matter, authority from the government, given to the public. So the question also comes, how many parents have gone to the police stations and reported that we have been charging extra levies as evidence, as much as they are saying that the principals are charging them money? How many parents have come to my office to complain officially that we have been charging this money? You see that kind of scenario?
Yeah.
So for me to come out and speak about this, I want to thank Boaz and his team for bringing out this or uttering this. I would call this an earthquake that is affecting parents.
Okay.
And we are here today.
Yeah.
We want the government to understand that parents have been misused.
Okay.
Just because they are lenient.
Okay.
And as a parent, I will not want to see my child in the house because I cannot pay 200 shillings that has gone. As I finish on this point, the other issue is this. In school boards of management and even some principals, they are doing purchasing or they are doing supply to their own schools. So, and they use different names. They use different companies to supply.
So there's also
I'm a principal. Yeah. I'm supplying my own school, but my name is Okala.
Okay.
And the company.
Okay.
So I will have to use all means to have parents pay so they can recover my money.
Okay. And Waruku, you know, earlier on, Nturima, who's the Deputy Secretary General for KUPPET, was saying that principals have no option. They have no choice. Schools are opened, capitation fee has not come in, food has to be there, because in fact his words was, if you don't have food in schools, it's a recipe for chaos. Does he have a point that sometimes the head teachers really don't have a choice?
Thank you very much, and thanks that the unions are speaking. I wish that all of them could speak with one accord. And when they speak, they should speak what actually should be the right thing to be done, not coping mechanisms. And indeed, my brother Abu Hadsa told you, there's no way where you can just decide, because I'm hungry, you just go and raid somebody's shop or a fish den, whatever it is, because you want to feed yourself. Levying illegal charges on the parents is akin to stealing from them, obtaining from them money using those false pretenses. And indeed, that is where our unionists should be coming out and asking, because I know in the past they have talked about capitation and other remittances to the schools. They have negotiated in the past with the government. You remember there's a formula in existence of the 50% term 1, 30% term 2, and 20% term 3. Compliance with that arrangement has been very difficult for the government to meet. But also, I don't know the kind of consistency of piling pressure and reminding the government to do its bit, because in delivering of education, all the stakeholders have got a responsibility to do. So, Trevor, the question you're asking me would make me now bring this into a wider context and actually indicate that the leaders that are supposed to help address this situation actually know that it exists. It's a problem, right from the topmost, the president himself. In fact, I remember early last year, 2024, the president did talk about illegal charges and directed that no such charges should continue. But you see, just verbal talks without concrete action, that's political rhetoric without concrete action does not help. Maureen is telling you, as a parent who sees the child coming back home all the time, that is a problem. And that is why maybe some of them quickly look for what means do we do. They even go and sell animals. Even some deliver firewood so that it is quantified in terms of money. So why that is happening when the president knows, the cabinet secretary, one rule, one basic responsibility given to the cabinet secretary by the Basic Education Act and the principal secretary is to enforce the law as is, those regulations, ensure that people comply, that there are no other charges which are being created, and that the remittances to the schools are done in time so that the BOMs and the school administrators plan with this money well ahead. Actually, today, you'd be informed that even the capitation for term 1 has not been concluded, has not been remitted to the schools all in total. And yet we are in term 2. Why is that happening? It's because poor planning is happening somewhere. I think when that is reorganized, we probably would be having a much better publicly organized education or school system in Kenya. And the parents would, that load which is being placed on their back would be uplifted a little.
All right. And Onokal, there was a challenge that was brought to you by Muhatsa when he was finishing his submissions, that how many of you actually speak out as parents. And you also mentioned that the government has been giving you a lot of injustice. But how much responsibility do you take as parents that this is my child and there are certain things that I may want to be provided for in school that may not necessarily fall within the regular spectrum? One of them that I'm sure you've seen is the remedial fees. Remedial fees is almost in every other fee structure that exists. Their argument is that this is the extra lessons or extra teaching that we give to the students beyond what is required by the Teacher Service Commission. Does that make sense to you? And how many times have you actually reported and taken responsibility as parents and said this is happening and action should be taken?
Mr. Trevor, may I also ask you a question?
It doesn't work. I don't want to ask the question. You just give the response. Because
you are a parent. You are a parent, and this is the reason I'm bringing in the question. And I would also want my colleagues here to respond to the same. What is it, what is this that is there that we need to use as an evidence that should hinder a parent from taking responsibility? Mr. Baz called it a coping mechanism. It is very clear your child is in school, or our children are in school. The Kenyan child is in school. And at school, the money that the government is supposed to remit has not been remitted. And therefore, the head teachers are crying. It is evident. The head teachers are crying, and even sometimes thinking of closing down the schools, which of course they cannot do because parents do not see the need of those schools to be closed. So do you expect me to go to a police station to report that I've been asked for this or that? I can't. What I'll do, I've told you that my child is my responsibility. If the government has put up laws and said that this kind of money is not supposed to be paid, the admission fees, they're all put in the policies. I've been told that they're not supposed to happen. And then the same government has also given a window that in such a circumstance, parents are supposed to come together and agree. So what am I supposed to do, or what are we supposed to do as parents of that school or as parents in Kenya? We look for coping mechanisms. And this is where the government also takes advantage, because they know they hold the money. After they've held the money, they know that these parents are going to do the same. But it doesn't matter, because even when we make noise, the PS will come and tell us that money has been remitted. It is done by word of mouth. But on the ground, the money never goes to those schools. And if they come late. And again, if they come, they don't come as it has been planned.
Okay.
So one thing that I want to tell you is that this nation, Mr. Trevor, has very great minds. But these great minds are deliberately putting Kenya down. They are suppressing the welfare of a Kenyan child. I've gone round schools, of course not all, but many, because we do initiatives concerning the welfare or the well-being or the welfare of the children.
Yeah.
And we realize that these children go through so much. You can imagine, I am told that I'm not supposed to pay the levies. That money is not there, meaning that I have to sit with my child at home.
Yeah.
When I sit with my child at home, so many things are stopped. Worse enough, if this child is in school and has been sent to come back for the school fees, there are so many dangers, so many vulnerabilities to this child. This is where we lose our children to early marriages. This is where we lose them to rape cases. This is where we lose our children to drug abuse. This is where we lose our children to maybe even accidents, because some of them get down by border borders. They get knocked down by border borders, and then you are told, come for your child who has been hit by maybe a hit and run, motor, whatever. And we get to have these children suffer so much.
Okay.
So the government has made laws
Yeah.
that the government itself is not protecting. So I am boldly saying as a mother that it is the government that is hurting our children.
Okay.
The government is pretending to have given policies. They are not protecting those very policies. So it is the government abusing our children.
Okay.
If they take tax from us, just 1 minute, they are supposed to give us
the services.
the services.
Okay.
The reasons they took the taxes.
Right.
Yes.
Fair point.
Trevor, may I ask another question so that the president of the National Parents Association can answer at the same time? Because what we are discussing here still boils down to, do we have the money adequate to cater for all these things, which make it possible now for the teachers to start saying we don't have it and go. Do we have that money? And if we do, has the National Parents Association with the unions sat even with the cabinet secretary at that level long before the schools reopen, not waiting until the schools reopen is when people start jostling here and there? Because I know, as for now, the budget that was there, the 636 billion that was given to education for 2024, 2025, it's coming to an end. Not all of it has been remitted. What do they actually do to ensure that that money gets to the school? And indeed, other wastages that we keep on seeing, because it is also a matter of how prudently do we utilize those resources. So maybe you could be able to help us. Sorry to ask you a question. And I'm also
Thank you, my team. I would say this. First of all, the Basic Education Act 2013 allows parents to participate in issues that go towards funding schools' activities. For example, the capitation fund does not cater for boarding and lunch, for example. Parents have to meet those costs. But we are saying that problem here could be the procedure. that are they involved in the first place? Secondly, we may not blame the government because I've shown you the circular and it's here and I can give it to you to read if you want to read. This is a circular from the government. This is a matter of policy. And this is a serious matter that anybody collecting money from parents without authority is committing an offense. So here, parents have roles to play. For example, if the school does not have a fence or a gate, the school board or the PTA has authority to call parents, discuss that, and share the responsibilities that this school does not have a gate, there are people trespassing in the compound. And to stop this, as parents, we have our role to play. We can contribute money and do the fencing of the school. We have done the costing as the board, and this is the amount we require, is 3,000, and each parent paying 10 shillings is not an offense. And they have to vote and agree. I've said that. Now, the problem is that when the parents agree to pay 3,000, the 3,000 is multiplied by 20 million. And it's divided among the parents. It was 3,000,
that is
but now
3 billion.
It's now 3 billion.
3 billion Kenya shillings.
That the parents have to go to meet and pay. It was 3,000. And the parents will go back and ask, why are we being asked to pay 20,000 for the fence when it was 3,000? If they ask, an enmity arises between the school management and the parents, and the revenge goes back to the students.
So after agreement, there's also blackmail. And
yes, so the parents retreat. As much as they are willing to support, they fear. Because now the figure has been inflated.
So
we go and ask,
there.
Is your child who suffers? So the parent retreats.
So what is the solution?
Secondly, let me come to this point. There is no head teacher who is allowed to dare send a child out of the school compound when the child has just crossed from the public fence outside to the school perimeter wall inside that is protected.
And yet it happens.
And it happens.
It happens all the time.
I'm the chair of parents. I work in towns. I was in Kisumu, and I met children in the streets walking during school days and asked them, why are you here? And they said, we have been sent home because of school fees. Trevor, who pays school fees? The children or the parents? There's technology. My phone is here. Why can't the principal pick a phone and call my mother to school? Must I go home? Students have ended up in wrong hands, as my parent is saying. They are sent for fees at home. They are married by force, by people on the way. It happens. Students have gotten into accidents to an extent of some even losing their lives. Parents losing. And you'll find that this child who is losing life was going to bring 500 shillings. Do you compare 500 shillings to a whole life of a human being?
So what is the solution now as a child?
Now, the solution comes here. The blame is that capitation funds are delayed. Do the principals understand why capitation funds are delayed by the government? Have they ever questioned? Trevor? I was in Mombasa with the former DP, the vice president, Honorable Kachagwa, during the secondary school heads conference. And I asked him to explain to me, as the chair of parents, why capitation funds are delayed. And he explained, as a government officer, and told me, we don't sit with the money and wait for the children to suffer. We also collect or get money from or borrow from somewhere. So if you're borrowing money, then you are told that the money will come after 1 or 2 weeks. We have to wait for the 2 weeks. But that does not give an excuse to the principals to send children at home. You see this? So the government is looking for a solution, but the children are on the roads. Why are they on the roads? Now, we are saying this. Boaz has questioned this. Has the government ever sat with the Parents Association? I'm the chair. And with the chair or the president of the Secondary School Heads Association, Primary School Heads Association on the same table and shared this issue of these school funds? We have not. Personally, I have not seen that. We are asking the government to go in that direction. If the capitation funds are going to delay and fail to reach school on time, we want the secondary school heads and primary school heads invited, and other stakeholders, even 2 or 4 parents, to sit in and hear this, that the capitation funds will be delayed, but at the end of the day will be paid. Don't send the children at home. Now, the question is, how do we feed the children? How do you do what? Feed the what? the children. If parents are willing to carry maize and take to school, why should the school heads demand for money? Hard cash. Their parents want to take food to school to support. Their parents want to take fire to school and support. There are those who can even slaughter chicken at home and take to school.
Yeah.
But the principals will say, we want hard cash. Why do they want hard cash? Secondly, on which account is this money put? Do you have those accounts tabled before the AGMs for the parents to see that this is the money that was collected for this term, and this is what we spent, and this is the balance? Parents, can we decide on how to go with this balance?
Yeah.
Is it done? It's not done.
It's not happening. Okay.
So,
yeah.
The last point. Do parents have information? Do they have access to information? Like now, this is critical information that parents should be having. So the government should strive to work with the National Parents Association to have parents sensitive on these things that are very sensitive like these ones.
Okay.
They must understand that they must attend school meetings.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you go to school meetings, you'll find there are house girls and groundsmen and female parents only in the meetings. Male parents don't go to the meetings. Now, when it comes to the issue of now paying the fact they are saying that there are extra levies, now there is the voice. But they never go to meetings.
Okay.
So parents must attend the meetings.
There's a lot of feedback coming through, and we're also pressed for time. So let's read some feedback, and then I'll give you each just a minute for closing remarks because we're running out of time, and I know you have something to say. Let's bring up the feedback really quick and see what you're saying at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. Gabi says, I'm the victim here. Some teachers used to go to the extent of checking our pocket. And if he found enough to purchase ream papers, he would forcefully make the purchase. He didn't care whether it was school fees or pocket money. Parents are being robbed blind with these reams of printing papers, motivation fee and remedials fee. This is lining pockets of greedy principals. Okay? Bore Collins says, Government of Kenya often delays release of capitation funds, and even when disbursed, not all the amounts reach school accounts. How then are schools expected to run effectively? Sympathize with the principals. Don't blame them. Okay? Kate Besk says most of those extra levies are discussed and passed in AGMs and academic days. Parents unanimously agree to boost programs that have been set up by schools in order to achieve success. I now wonder why they are disgruntled. Mwaniki even says that when education becomes a transaction between desperate parents and opportunist officials, the dream of national progress dies. Delayed capitation and illegal levies are twin scandals Kenya must confront. Kane says, please do not ask parents to report such cases to the police or education officials. The intimidation that follows for children of such parents in those schools stinks to the high heavens. That is why most parents keep quiet and comply. Jim says the illegal levies being condemned is actually supported by parents themselves. They are the ones who pass the monies and are mostly for extra classes for early mornings, evenings, and weekends. If parents depend on 8 to 4 classes, the list will fail terribly. Sir Nixon says, yes, basic education, primary and secondary school is free in Kenya, but only on paper or policies. Kwa ground, mambo ni very different. CS education, go to the ground, and if you want information, provide an SMS or toll-free line. Waruku, closing remarks, and you've heard the sentiments of the people.
The very last statement is what Elimu Bora is thinking of.
Yeah.
That toll-free line, so that the parents who actually have serious issues and they can report, can be assisted.
But there are also those who argue that those levies are passed by parents.
Yes, maybe the details of how they are passed, you can ask the president of the National Parents Association. At times, some of those are things which are already choreographed. They have been prearranged, and it becomes very difficult. And particularly, they're mentioning that when a parent of a particular student is seen to be the one raising serious concerns, you know, the ramifications can be directed to your child. So that actually is what also causes the fear that we have. And Trevor, why we should not even go to that extent if the government was playing its role. Okay. If our resources were being used to fund education in a way that everything that we require in the schools are catered for. Trevor, the amount of money I mentioned for the education sector alone, that's a lot of money. Nobody can account for that penny after penny. by the end of any financial year. A lot of it goes into wastage, and that is where we have to correct it. And two, prioritization. And here is where I also disagree with my chairman of the Parents Association. I'm a parent of many children. I disagree that you can be given a lame excuse of we are waiting for resources before we disburse. If Kenyans would be able to see how the money gets into the accounts of the state, even right now, the water I'm consuming, there's a tax which is going there. It would be like, I mean, the money is dropping there every second. Millions and millions are dropping. In fact, if you are to go by what the fourth president said, in a day, 2 billion is being stolen. If 2 billion is being stolen, it means billions more are being collected. Okay. The priority is the problem.
All right.
So these priorities should be education. Once it is education, because if we fund education now, we are building the future for these young ones. Okay. Instead of looking at other priorities which do not add value, and our children are out there. Trevor, because you say this is the final, I would like to suggest a few things, because adding on to this, one of them is that our parents should not be quick and should not fear that raising these voices would lead to their intimidation. Because if they are not raised, then the cavalier way in which the monies are being collected, and many of them not receipted, will continue, because there is a cartel culture that is being created, and it will be very difficult to uproot that. We must stop that too. An accountability statement, and we ask, I don't know what our parliamentarians should be putting the Ministry of Education to account. And, you know, when they are invited, it should not be those friendly questions asked here and there, and there's no follow-up. There should be concrete framework of ensuring that what is asked is followed up. Okay. Trevor, finally, there are some children who have been passing through near the gates of some public schools, and as we were conducting a survey, when you asked them, why are you not in this school? When you asked their parents, they said, no. They thought those are private schools. So there's a way in which some of the public schools have been turned into private institutions. Okay. But even if they still maintain public face inside, there's privatization inside the public schools. And this is what we are calling for an end to, because with that, then many people would get, many people from the poor economic status would get access there. Thank you.
Okal, very closing remarks, very briefly, because we ran out of time now.
Trevor, thank you. I remember when the president today was first-term vice president or deputy president. He said, I heard it, it goes into my mind every now and then, that Kenya is a great land, a land that has opportunity and that are equal to everybody. So that the opportunities that he was talking about, the greatness of this land, was made or were made by other people. So that is where he also found the opportunity to be who he is today. It is my request that he should work so hard to ensure that the Kenyan child is given the same opportunity, that the Kenyan child is taken care of, is nurtured in an environment that is human enough, so that we end up with a better Kenya. Because the way things are going, so many things are going to collapse in the education sector in Kenya. Yes, please.
Obwata, closing remarks.
Thank you. I just want to add on what my team has said here. One, the head of state has said clearly that there should be no charging of extra levies in schools. He has given that authority already. Secondly, I want to request that the PS, the new PS who has taken over, should revise this circular. Should call the heads of secondary schools, heads of private schools, national parties association, we sit together, we revise this circular together so that it can be effected. Thirdly, I want to ask the Minister of Education to work closely with parents. Because parents are on the ground and they own schools, but they are suffering. So I want the Minister of Education to work closely with parents to make sure that parents can be sensitized, they can be educated, and they can be even taught on how to track school budgets. It's very important to understand how the money is being spent. Finally, we are urging the school heads that from now hence, they should not send children at home for school fees. Because Under the Basic Education Act, it says clearly, education should be what?
A basic right.
It's a basic right.
Free and compulsory.
And they understand they are professionals. So why are they sending children at home?
Yeah.
Back on the roads when they have opened schools during midterm and all that.
All right.
So we are saying this finally.
Yeah.
We want to see a very strong and good working relationship between the government, the parents, and the schools.
Okay.
All these parents being involved in where any money has to be charged for. The parents must be involved, and they must be told the reason why the money is being charged for, because they have roles to play, and in the Education Act, it allows that to happen. All right. But they should not be charged or overcharged and destroyed.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making time, lady and gentlemen. Boaz Waruku, Strategy Advisor, Levies Working Group, Maureen Okal, Director, Smile Natoto Initiative, and a parent, and Silas David Obuhatsa, National Chairman, Parents Association. Thank you all for speaking to us. We're taking a quick break on Monday Report. When we come back, it's time to get to the sporting news. See you in just a bit.